Have you, Senator Perdue? Welcome back to the Hugh Hewitt Show.
Good morning, Hugh.
You are in a race. You're ahead, but they're pouring a lot of money into Pretty Boy Floyd. That's what I call Beto O'Rourke. And what's John's Ossoff? Is that his last name? They always try and rob the election, but they fade. How's it going?
Well, they're going to fade when the people in Georgia realize this radical socialist agenda they're trying to perpetrate on the people of America. I mean, Schumer thinks he can come to Georgia, Hugh, and steal 2 seats in the Senate. We have a jungle general election in the other Senate seat, Johnny Isaacson seat, that Kelly Loeffler holds today. And they really think by pouring outside money, mostly from billionaires in California, that they can somehow hide Ossoff's real radical nature. And I just don't think it's going to happen. We're going to make darn sure that socialism doesn't run through the state of Georgia.
Yeah, I just cannot believe Ossoff. You get one shot at fooling people. He had his one shot in the congressional special, and he failed. I don't think it'll work. But tell me, Senator, I've been making a big deal out of the fact that President Trump rolled out his Supreme Court appointees yesterday, and the list expanded. They're all great people, including 3 of your colleagues, Ted Cruz, Tom
Yep.
Cotton, and Josh Hawley.
Yep.
Does that matter to voters in Georgia? It should, but I wonder, does it?
Hugh, I think it does, and here's why. I think they've begun to realize that under the Democrats, they were trying to use the judicial branch to actually legislate policy, and that's what the Democrats want to do. What we've done by adding 203 federal judges is we've rebalanced those courts, and I think people in the state of Georgia are beginning to realize that. I just don't know if they give Trump enough credit for that. He just drove this, and I have to say, Mitch McConnell also put that as a high priority in the Senate to get these nominations confirmed, too.
I just checked. There are 0 nominees for the Federal Circuit Court of Appeals pending. So there are
That's
no
correct.
vacancies. You've
Yep.
caught up. There are a bunch of district court judges, not in Georgia, but in California, that the blue slip process continues to hamper. Let me ask you about the skinny down phase 4, Senator Perdue. I'm a
Yep.
big backer of SB 3718, which is
Yep.
the Local News and Emergency Information Act, which I
Yes,
thought
sir.
was going to get rolled into this. What is going to happen? Mitch is trying to get something to move through the leader. I shouldn't call him Mitch. The leader is trying to get something moved through the Senate. And Schumer's blocking it. What's the story?
Well, we're back to obstructionism. You know, it's like the judges. I mean, for 4 years, the Democrats have done nothing but obstruct a nomination and the confirmation process here. They're doing the same thing with this round of relief. Now, ironically, during the height of the crisis back in March and April, we did have a bipartisan cooperation here, and we got the CARES Act done, $2.9 trillion. We put relief out there in small businesses. PPP program has been successful. Now we need to top that up a little bit. We're going to reprogram about $350 billion of the CARES Act into specific areas that need it. We're trying to get people back to work, get the schools reopened, and to beat this virus. And that's what this $667 billion of new appropriation would do.
Well, Senator, do people understand? I want to go back to SB 3718 for a second. It's co-authored by Cantwell and Klobuchar, but also John Bozeman and Joni Ernst. It's bipartisan, and Chuck Schumer, it's called the Schumer bill by some people. He goes around promoting it, but then he blocks anything from moving for the Senate. Do they get away with that?
Well, that's going to be the test of this election, and it's up to us as Republicans to expose what the Democrats are doing. They're voting against things that they actually support because they don't want to give President Trump any kind of victory between now and November. And if the economy continues to produce jobs like it's doing, 10.5 million new jobs over the last 4 months, they're not going to have a leg to stand on there, Hugh. And that's what they're trying to do. They're putting self-interest of their party and their partisan politics above the best interests of America. And I just think that's unforgivable, and we've got to expose that.
Now, Senator Perdue, your business background that you brought to the Senate 6 years ago, it's much appreciated. I'm wondering what you think employers are doing right now. There's one more jobs report before the election. I think it's vital that it be positive like the last 4 have been. In fact, it would be great if it was extremely positive. The job creators that you talk to out there, are they hiring right now?
Absolutely. In fact, the number one thing that keeps us from growing the economy faster than it's growing right now is getting people to come back to work. Now, we outlived the $600 premium on Social Security premium, but we have this rundown now between now and the end of the year. So people are beginning to realize they got to go back to work, and they are. So the number one thing in my state, Hugh, is these small employers. And remember, the average loan for a PPP loan was $103,000 and 10 employees. So these are really the smallest of our small businesses, and they're having trouble finding people to come back to work. That's beginning to change. I think it's going to continue on through the end of October, and really will be a positive, I think, for the election.
Now, I have heard from very reliable sources that your opponent is buying ads on stations that carry me. And that's happening in North Carolina. It's happening in Maine, where Susan Collins is ahead. They're buying my stations,
Yep.
conservative talk radio station, to try and trick people. Is that going on, and how are you beating that back?
Absolutely, it's going on. They did that in the governor's race in Georgia too, when they sent mailers out to Republican women and told them how great the Democratic policies were, et cetera, and the Republicans didn't have an answer. We have an answer now. We have the best ground game in Georgia's history. We've combined President Trump's effort, my effort, and the Georgia party down there. We have the largest volunteer force, over 8,000 volunteers, Hugh, knocking on doors, making phone calls. We're making sure that people understand what the Democrats are trying to perpetrate here. This is a draconian effort that they're about, Hugh. You call it out on your show all the time about they want to change the face of America into more of a, and people don't really understand what socialist means, but they really want to put big federal government more in charge of our individual lives.
They also want to add two senators from D.C. They want to change the Electoral College. And what most alarming, they want to expand the Supreme Court. I mean, it's a radical agenda, Senator Perdue.
Well, and add to that the Green New Deal. They want to give a 30,000 a year salary to anybody that's unable or unwilling to work. They want people who are not citizens to get access to our benefit programs. And they want to defund the police, abolish ICE, open borders, sanctuary cities. And this Green New Deal, nobody has talked about on the Democrat side how they're going to finance it. A wealth tax is about the only thing they could go to get there. It's just outrageous how radical some of these ideas are, and we can't let them get away with it.
Now, Senator Perdue, I wanted to follow the bouncing ball. We went from Special Counsel Mueller. We actually started with Comey. We went to Mueller. We went to Ukraine. Now we've gone to the Atlantic story where the president allegedly said bad things about the military. That's been debunked. Now we're on to the Woodward book. I played tape of Robert O'Brien on this show, January 29th, saying, well, in fact, let me play it for the senator. Robert O'Brien on my show on January 29th. We got that ready. Senator Cotton yesterday called for suspension of all inbound flights from China. Is that on the table, and do you believe that you are adequately prepared for the coronavirus in the United States?
It's an incredibly dangerous virus. We're meeting on it every day. The president's being briefed by his advisors, Alex Azar, by CDC, on a almost hour-by-hour basis. So we're watching it carefully. We did note that the British Airlines, one of the great airlines in the world, and with a very international reach, has suspended direct flights in and out of mainland China. So we're monitoring that. I believe that was a company decision, not a UK government decision, but I think that sends a message to the American people. The travel advisory at the State Department has been up to level 3, so we're encouraging folks without essential business in China not to go to China, and we'll keep looking at things. But this virus is deadly, and it's a matter of great concern to the president and the administration.
So Senator Perdue, the National Security Advisor on this show on January 29th, says it's deadly, it's dangerous, the president's being briefed hourly. President talks to Bob Woodward a week and a day later, and it's being cast as somehow he misled the American people when his National Security Advisor is on this show with 6 million people listening, saying it's deadly and dangerous a week earlier. That's just fake news, not the Woodward tape that happened, but the spinning of the Woodward tape is fake news.
Oh, it is. It's absolutely a distraction away from the fact that they mocked the president when he shut down travel from Asia, when he quarantined travelers. They mocked him. Remember, Pelosi was out there in Chinatown in San Francisco saying, this is ridiculous, come on out, we're open for business. And now all of a sudden they're saying he didn't do enough. We shut the economy down, for goodness sake. And now they don't want to reopen. They didn't want to shut it down. And then now that that Trump shut it down, they don't want to reopen it. They don't want to reopen schools. So this is nothing but a pure and simple distraction that they cannot defend these radical policies, Hugh, they're trying to perpetrate. And this is the sleight of hand that they hope they can get away with Biden in his basement trying to run the presidential campaign, on down to a kid like John Ossoff running in my race. And I think we've got all the facts we need. What we need right now is the ability to stand up to these billionaire financial supporters that are really hoodwinking the voters in our state for sure.
A quick one, Senator Perdue. I know you have to take it seriously, but I think of Johnny Ossoff like Beto O'Rourke. I really do think they're kids and that no one takes them seriously. Does anyone in Georgia really take them seriously?
Well, we've added 1.5 million new active voters in Georgia in the last 3 years since Trump was elected. I told President this last week. and they're coming from California, Illinois, and New York. They're bringing their political ethos with them, and that's why the polls are where they are.
Well, keep working. We'll keep telling them on the Hugh Hewitt Show. We're I think, the #1 rated show in Atlanta in the morning, and I think that's because we talked to you, David Perdue, and everybody else like you. Hey, stay tuned, America.